Pretty cool. We can display all our products. The only thing is missing is the fact that once we click on the add to cart, of course, nothing is happening because at the moment we haven't added that functionality. And also, as far as the price, we're still hard coding. So first, I guess let's try to just access the price dynamically and see where is the problem. Now, technically, it's not a problem. It is a feature, but let's just take a look at it. We're going to go for a variable, and of course, we're looking for the price. So now let me navigate back to our homepage. And of course, we're going to see that we have these interesting prices. So first, I guess let's understand what is happening over here. So if we take a look at our API, we can see that we're getting back the price, but price is somewhat interesting where we don't have the dollar sign. So of course, this is a number, but also these values are kind of interesting where this is actually in cents. So what is happening? Well, even though in our project, we won't set up, for example, payment processor, Stripe or PayPal or whatever. In general, those payment processors are looking for the values in the smallest unit for that particular currency. So what am I talking about here? For example, Stripe, if you would use it, Stripe in commerce, Stripe, when it collects this total value, for example, from your cart or from your checkout, so you would navigate to checkout, but this would be your total. Stripe is not looking for 391.72. Stripe is going to be looking for the smallest single unit in that currency. Now, we already know that for dollars, that would be cents. So when you're looking at the API, 999 doesn't mean dollars. It means 999 cents. And essentially that, of course, means $9.99. Now, I didn't go with some crazy prices. I just wanted to keep it simple. That's why you'll see that essentially dining table costs $6.99. And the reason why I did that, because again, when we will be calculating our totals, I want to calculate those totals right away in cents. So when we pass, for example, this data to a Stripe, which we won't do in this project, but normally you would do that. When you pass that info to a Stripe, I want to right away pass in cents. That's why I need to take care of two things. First, the price will always stay in those cents. So when I'm calculating totals for the cart, it will always come back in cents. And the second thing I need to worry about is how I will display that price. So I have my prices in cents. They will always stay in cents, but when I display them, I would want to format them a little bit. Okay, I would want to show that, yeah, that is $9.99 or $6.98 or $39.95. So please keep in mind that there's two distinct things. There's one that the price is always going to be in cents. So every time we'll calculate that, we'll always calculate that in cents. And I'll talk about why we're doing that in a second. And the second thing is that we need to worry about when we display that price, how we're going to format. So the customer doesn't think that, for example, this sofa is $3,000.95. Okay. Now, why, for example, you're wondering, we are not setting everything as $9.99. And then when we pass it to Stripe, well, then we would convert it back. And the simple answer is that JavaScript is somewhat tricky when you have decimals and you start rounding them up. And every time you talk about the money, you want to be as safe as possible. So even though you might argue that, well, we could have set this up as $9.99 and then only in one place, only in our checkout, we would convert it back. And all our operations, we would add $9.99 and whatever, 25.95. Yeah, that is a okay argument, but just keep in mind that if you go wrong with money, meaning as you start adding and subtracting and most importantly, rounding numbers in decimals in JavaScript, you might hit some weird bugs. And you don't want those bugs when the money is involved. You want to be as clean as possible. That's why it is the easiest setup to have everything in cents, so you cannot go wrong. These are just numbers. There's going to be no surprises when you're rounding, when you're adding, subtracting, multiplying, or whatever. And you can pass this number safely without any hesitation to Stripe, to your payment processor, and only worry about formatting as far as displaying. Because believe me, it is better to have some kind of annoying bug when you're displaying that price. But if you'll have the same annoying bug somewhere where you're actually passing the money values, that is far bigger problem. That's why our setup is following, where we have all the prices in cents in the smallest single value. And then we're not passing this to Stripe, but normally you would. And then we'll have a format function, just deals with formatting this when we display it. Because if something happens here, which it won't, but just in case, if something happens, it's not that big of a deal if you have some kind of bug in your cart. Because every time money is involved, I mean, you're losing the money, or your customer is losing money. And that's the last thing you want when you're setting up the e-commerce. So with all this said, how we could format it? Well, the most easiest one would be following, where I have the price, and I know that this is, of course, in cents, so I can just divide by 100, correct? And there it is. And now I'm going to be getting some kind of values that are, of course, divided by 100. And yeah, you can definitely do that, but I also would want to showcase that in JavaScript, there is a international number or international object, and then on there's a number format. So what am I talking about? You notice here this format price. That's the function. So if I navigate to a utils, I'm going to set up this function. So this function is going to be looking for the price. So whatever we're passing in cents, and then we'll use this international. So let's create one. So then I'm going to call this formatted, and then price. We'll set it equal to new, and then we're looking for this international. Then we're going to look for number format, and then we need to pass in some values. So first, we're going to go with English and then US. Then we'll set up a object where we'll say style, and we're going to be looking for currency. And by the way, if you want more info on this, just check out the Mozilla Developer Network. They have very good explanation of what other options you have. I'm going to go for currency. Then that is going to be US dollars. So we're going to say USD. And then, of course, I would want to return that formatted price. There's going to be a little bit more code over here, but let me just return it. We're going to go with a return and then formatted price. And now, of course, once I have the function, I can invoke it when I'm displaying the product. So I have format price. So now, instead of just passing the price, what I'm going to do is pass format price. So let's format price, and let's pass in our price. Now, at the moment, notice you have a bunch of interesting things over here, because what we're looking for actually is the price as well. So in the utils, notice we have formatted price. And by the way, it's also because I didn't return proper thing. Sorry. Formatted price, that's my variable. So now I can see that I have this object, and I also need to invoke format. So I have this international, then normal format. Then I would want to chain format at the end, and then pass in the price. Okay, let's pass in the price. Okay, beautiful. Let's see what we got. So we have 999, because in this case, I also would want to divide by 100, and then I would want to make sure that it is to fixed. So I have only two variables in there. So I have the format function that I'm chaining to my international one. And what I would want instead is to pass in the price divided by the 100 over here. And then I'll add to fixed. So say to fixed, and that's just going to make sure that we only have two decimals. So even though you can do a quick and dirty way, where essentially you just divide by 100, that is definitely an option. A more proper way is using this number format. So this is going to be our price. This is why we're doing it in cents. And what is the way for us to format it? So each and every time, instead of displaying this 900 or whatever, 3,900 something cents, I'm going to be displaying this formatted price.